All right. Markets abhor uncertainty. This is another element of uncertainty added to the widening allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. Another uncertainty added to the trade war, which seems to have escalated a little bit with some nasty comments overnight. And, of course, the implementation formally of those tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, $60 billion plus of similar tariffs on American goods that affect 5,000 different items and could result in much higher toy prices, for example, going into the Christmas shopping season. So you can weigh on all of these concerns and doubts and unknowns. And, of course, the better part of valor is to sell off. Let's get the read from Charlie Gasparino. We also have radio show host extraordinaire Ben Kissel. We've got American Support Prosperity President Tim Phillips, Payne Capital Management Senior Wealth Advisor Michelle McKinnon. Michelle, I'm going to begin with you. Then it's open season here, guys. You could make the argument that it would be very bad for Donald Trump to see Rosenstein go.
I mean, you can make that argument in so many other different cases. I think it's a lot of noise. I mean, the market's down 200 points today. The market could be down 200 points because of China, because of a lot of other reasons. So I think it's really too early to say. But I didn't ask about the market. I asked about it would be a mistake for the president to do this because better to have him with you than outside showing pot shots at you. Yeah, and to create more uncertainty. But, I mean, Trump's been uncertain and unorthodox since day one, so this is not new news. So, I don't know. I think it's hard to try to claim that and guess that one. What do you think, Tim?
I think the bigger issue is the trade issue. Neil, when you look at the potential to undermine what is becoming a booming recovery, partly because of the tax cuts and tax reform that this president fought so hard for, the deregulatory effort that's knocking down barriers to opportunity. We're seeing an economy taking off like we haven't seen in over a decade, and they're risking undermining all that with this trade war. I think that's a bigger issue. I think Michelle's right. Most Americans are not looking at is the Deputy Attorney General of the Justice Department going to get fired. Most Americans, that's noise for them. They want to know, is this economy, consumer confidence at almost 2-decade high, is that going to continue going? I think that's the bigger issue and the bigger danger here for this president.
Well, I mean, I think the economy, it's just a matter of time before it starts going on the downward trajectory. Of course, Ben Bernanke disagreed with the tax cuts, saying you don't want to overstimulate the economy. He thought that might have been a major mistake. So we'll see how that plays out. Nostradamus on this. Yeah, it did have a good effect. Yeah, his name is Ben. We got to trust him. Right. But when it comes to Rosenstein, I think the biggest favor he could give Trump is resigning. That was the rumors this morning that he was going to resign. By the way, is there a difference in his resigning rather than getting fired? Someone told me it makes a difference in the appointment. Right?
Well, that's a good question. In the appointment?
Well, replacement.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's an optical thing if he resigns.
Of course.
But if he resigns under pressure, it's called being ousted, which is almost the same thing. Right. I will say this. The economy looks good on paper. The wages are essentially flat from Obama years. Consumer confidence is up, but there's a lot of there's underemployment still pretty high. This is not the Bill Clinton economy. Meaning when Bill Clinton, I mean, I was at the Wall Street Journal at the time covering Wall Street, and I remember that's when the political situation was pretty hot and heavy with Lewinsky and Whitewater.
And they didn't want him to go? Wall Street didn't want him to go?
And the general public didn't want him to go because the general public was dealing with 5% economic growth and rising wages and massive employment. We don't quite have that here. As much as we want to tout the GDP numbers, we don't have that here. And so if you mix that with general uncertainty politically, and here's where I worry about markets. Let's just say the Democrats get the House and the Senate. Let's just say that they delay Kavanaugh enough for a Democratic Senate. Well, then all bets are off on this thing. And then you have some real problems.
Well,
and I think that's the problem.
Would be on not confirming Kavanaugh at that point. If you had
I'm just saying that.
You're a betting man.
I'm just saying.
Well, you could argue after an election like that, you have until January to get your guy in. I mean, you want to force.
I think the real question is for Trump is the discord, and we haven't seen this type of discord since Clinton, and this might be even more.
I do.
Some of itself. Let's just make this point. If you does this translate into Democrats taking over everything? And it's a good case. It might.
Well, we always talk about Wall Street boards uncertainty, and in this uncertain environment, we don't know all the
don't think it matters.
the names are good. So
it doesn't matter for a Democratic Senate.
I think at the end of the day, as long as, I mean, look at the fundamentals, right? You have historically low unemployment rate. You have record-breaking earnings.
No, but if you
I think politics are politics.
If you got to change in fiscal policy spurred by Democrats controlling every major committee,
but I don't think that the Democrats are really in the ball game when it comes to taking over the Senate. That doesn't
really.
You never know.
There's Democrats that are in Trump.
But if that were to happen, all bets really would be off.
Of course, but that's extremely difficult.
No, it's not. They don't have to. They don't have to vote against Kavanaugh now.
Your Clinton
Joe Manchin
analogy
can
is
vote against Kavanaugh.
Well, they have cover.
Heidi Heitkamp,
Democrats
they all have cover right now.
Your Clinton analogy is an interesting one. And just getting back to the danger of this trade war, this is so easy to overlook. Remember what happened early during that administration? The North American Free Trade Agreement came, and it transformed the American economy in a good way. Millions of jobs resulted, prosperity, lower consumer prices for Americans on everyday items, which helped folks struggling on the margins. This trade war, it's easy to overlook, and it's so important. It's central to this economic recovery, and it is early. I completely agree with that. That's why it's so fragile right now. And with all of the Rosenstein stuff and everything else, it's easy to overlook the danger of this trade war.